Good morning. I'd like to call the WKU Staff Senate, let's see, it's April 2024, call our meeting to order. We'll start out here. Let me flip over to my agenda, make sure I get it right. Start with our roll call. Senator Bartley. Present. Regent Brinkley.
Present.
Senator Kanzler.
Present.
Senator Chadwick. Senator Finn.
Present.
Senator Gilbert.
Present.
Senator Henry. Senator Hopwood. Senator Jenkins.
Present.
Senator Johnson. Senator Lindsey Jones. Senator Rhonda Jones is attending the Staff Leadership Institute, so she's not with us today. Senator Coughlin.
Present.
Senator Moran.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Stoll.
Present.
Senator Vanderpool.
Present.
Senator Vincent.
Present.
All right, awesome. Looks like we've got a quorum today, so we'll keep on rolling. I'll ask that we put our two approval items together. Our agenda and previous month's minutes were distributed electronically. Without objection, I'll ask those are accepted to be in unanimous consent. Okay, those stand accepted. So we'll move on to our Christopher Ware Staff Star Awards. This is our opportunity to celebrate staff members. We have a few with us today. Senator Vincent, the floor is yours.
Once again, we're presenting the Staff Star Awards. This is always my most favorite part of this meeting. So our first award goes to Melissa Hayden. She is the Passport Service Specialist. This is from her nominee. I'm writing to nominate Melissa S. Hayden, a Passport Specialist in Postal Services, for the Staff Star Award. Melissa has consistently demonstrated exceptional service and dedication in her role. She recently guided me through the process of renewing my passport and obtaining a passport card for my son. Her assistance was invaluable and her expertise was evident in every interaction. Melissa happily provided all the necessary forms and patiently answered every question we had about the passport process. She took our photos, ensuring they all met the requirements, and meticulously checked all our documents before sending them off. Her knowledge of the process was so comprehensive that she even knew the exact times when everything would be sent to us. Her commitment to her role and her dedication to helping customers navigate the often complex passport process is truly commendable. Melissa's professionalism, patience, and attention to detail significantly eased our experience, and it is for these reasons that I believe she is deserving candidate of the Staff Star Award. So for everyone who didn't know, we do have a passport service place right here in DSU. So if you're getting that passport and wanting to travel, you can come see Melissa. And Melissa, you can come up here. Thanks. Sometimes it's not too bad. Not too bad, okay.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Oh. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Our next award goes to Austin Smith. Austin goes above and beyond in his role when it is not expected of him. Having Austin as a boss has helped me grow in my role as a resident assistant. He has been there to support me in both my roles as an RA and me as a student. Austin does an amazing job at talking with residents and making himself known in the dorm and on campus as a whole. He has never once turned me away when I've asked him for help with a situation, even if it was outside of his office hours, which is different from what I have experienced with all other hall directors. He goes out of his way to make sure the RAs and residents he works with feels comfortable coming to talk to him about anything he does, talk about anything, and does his best to assist them in any way he can. Last year, he was put in charge of Zacharias Hall as well as Meredith Hall. And despite how big of a change that was and how challenging, it was never allowed it to impact the way he treats his staff and residents and still made time to make himself available. He also works towards making WKU's campus a better place for the LGBTQ+ community in his role for the Pride Network and is always respectful of individuals' identities. He is the talent acquisition specialist for the drag show at WKU, and last year he worked his hardest to make sure it was the best experience for both the performers and the guests. Austin as a whole is one of the most caring, understanding, generous, and hardworking people I have ever met in my time here at WKU, and is rarely recognized for the work he does every day. Also speaking on behalf of Austin is Nick Hott, Assistant Director of Housing and Residence Life.
Good morning. As Tanya said, my name is Nick Hott. I'm an Assistant Director in Housing and Residence Life. I've had the opportunity over the last 2 years to have Austin on my team working as a Residence Hall Director in our first year village in Zacharias Hall. Austin started actually with HRL back before my time in 2017, where he was an RA, graduated, went on to work in social work for a little while, and then came back to work with us beginning in 2022. During the time that I've known Austin, he has always been a student-centered professional. He spends time building positive relationships with both the student staff members that he leads on his team and with the residents who live in his building. The positive impact that he has on students is reflected by the fact that he was nominated for this award by one of his student staff members. Austin is also an advocate for underrepresented and under-resourced student groups, as shown through his work in the Top of Pride Network. Additionally, he supports our department programming efforts through his very underappreciated work that he was part of for our drag show committee. We know how thankless of a job that is at times, and we very much appreciate that committee. This is actually another excerpt from another RA that has worked with Austin this past year, and actually last year as well. Austin Smith has gone out of his way for both Meredith Hall and Zacharias Hall residents and staff his entire time on staff at WKU, especially the LGBTQ+ individuals. I'm very lucky to have had Austin as my hall director and as a personal staff advisor. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have him by my side. No one deserves this recognition more. Austin is a true servant leader, seeking ways in which to lift others up around him for their good with no concern for what he gains from it. It's been a privilege having Austin on our team. Congratulations, Austin.
There you go, you'll take that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to get one more?
We're good. Okay, get to our third staff member to be recognized, unfortunately could not be here today, but I would like to read his nomination. He was nominated for one of our faculty members. The Christopher Ware Staff Star Award goes to Anthony Elliott. He's a testing center specialist with our Distance Learning Testing Center, and this is from his nominator. 300 words or less will not allow me to express my gratitude for the effort, guidance, and leadership demonstrated by Anthony during my first experience with the testing center. I have been a part-time professor at WKU for 28 years in the public health and healthcare administration departments. Over the years, I've experienced countless changes in the ways in which we engage our students, faculty, and the entire learning experience. The concept of testing center and how it works was initially intimidating to me. The very first call I made to the testing center was answered by Anthony Elliott, and I had a problem that could not be solved. A student has shared the only they would be available to take the test weeknights after 10:30 p.m. Anthony was amazing with me. He was patient. I was clueless. He was coaching me. He was offering every option possible. And more than anything, he was extremely kind. He explained all the alternatives in detail and took the time to empathize with both me and the student, truly collaborating and leading. 28 years, I have never encountered someone so helpful, a true servant leader. And this is also from Anthony's supervisor. She wanted to share some words. Anthony Elliott has been with the Distance Learning Testing Center for 16+ years. He is a true asset to our operations. He strives to provide exceptional customer service to campus community and will go above and beyond to find the answer to those help those in need. We are thankful that he chose our operations to be a part of and hope he will stay with us for many more years, providing the same amazing customer service he has been, in addition to continuing to excel in best practice strategies and staff training he provides for exam security and our testing staff. I actually help oversee the testing center, and it's amazing the little steps that are involved in testing. So I appreciate Anthony's dedication and hard work and working with the faculty. So on behalf of Staff Senate, we thank you, Anthony, on all the hard work. Thanks again for listening to the Christopher Ware Staff Star Awards. If you do work with some student or staff members that you have and you want to recognize, please submit those online, because it's always nice to be recognized for all the hard work across campus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to our officer committee and staff regent report. Regent Brinkley.
So we have a committee meeting this week. It's the first one in a little bit. There are very few items on the agenda. There are 3 on the academic affairs side. One is approval of undergraduate certificate in personal branding. One is an approval of a minor in piano pedagogy. And another is an approval of graduate certificate in school social work. That's it on the academic affairs agenda. There are no items on the student affairs committee agenda. There are no items on the executive committee agenda. And there's only one item on finance and budget, which is the committee that the faculty, regent and I sit on together. And it's the approval of personnel actions. So there is really nothing of any approval, substantive use. It's not much of a report, but again, I can take questions anytime if anybody has them.
Okay, thank you. Communications, Senator Vincent.
No update.
Thank you. The Finance and Budget Committee, Senator Henry isn't with us, or is there a report from that committee? Or I believe she submitted her written report, so that I think suffices. Okay. Thank you. Technology, Senator Gilbert.
No report.
Thank you. Senator Moran, University Committee.
No report.
Thank you. Workforce.
No report.
Thank you. All right, so. I know the month is, oh, well, okay, it's the 10th, but it feels like the month is half over because it's April and we're all pushing to May. Met with the president. You saw Monday's email about state budget, and that was a lot of what our conversation was about. So all those things are there and out for everybody to read. As a occupant of that academic complex, it's really exciting to see an investment in a replacement for that building. So that'll be a fun process for a lot of staff members to contribute to over the next couple of years. And then there are a lot of other great items in there too. I know everybody was happy to see an increase in several areas, not just academic complex, but I'm sure that's number one for everybody. I think it did note it's the largest capital investment from the state for a building in the university, so that's pretty cool. Also, I'm currently serving along with Senator Vincent and Senator Gilbert on the benefits committee. I'm the newbie to that group, but we met mid-March, 13th, I think, had some conversations. We brought a couple questions that came up at our last meeting. One of those was specifically about, I guess, the previous iteration of the benefits committee. There was a study done. I'm going to roughly paraphrase a little bit because I wasn't on the committee then, but there was a study done about feasibility between what we have as a self-funded plan versus what options are on the market to go to a fully insured plan. Those compared with projections at the time and today with the updated projections we received in March, the going out to the market for fully insured, those were still more expensive than what we're doing as self-insured. So that helps hopefully a little bit of the understanding of that last committee's recommendation to stay self-insured. Then also we talked about things that we can report back. That really kicks off a really great question about when it's appropriate to share some of those things. Because there's, I'll send it for our minutes. There's a calendar, and I didn't realize it until I saw this calendar when we started, when I started on the benefits committee. But maybe my viewpoint was that I thought it was just a 2 or 3 months worth of work. But it's really a year-long process leading up to open enrollment in October. So our first meeting was in February for this committee. There is a consultant group, Mercer, new group, who provides a ton of data throughout the process. help the committee make a recommendation to executive leadership about what options to pursue. There's a lot of great conversation from what I've seen so far, the couple meetings I've attended, conversations about how potential changes one way or another, impact, participants in the health plan or help participants in the health plan, what things we can do, to benefit everyone. And that's gonna be my joke for that part of the report. So if, anybody has more questions about the benefits committee, feel free to reach out to staff and, or benefits in general, and we'll work on getting, more answers out. But you'll see, I'll send Senator Moran the calendar so everybody can look at our minutes when they come out. And you'll see, just how much work goes across the months. And you'll hear, I think, more, report wise from the benefits committee about each one of those steps as we go through. So the BEC, has continued to meet since our last meeting. Let's see, we met yesterday, afternoon. We had with the state budget more or less being finalized, we were at a point where we could have more in-depth conversations about a salary pool, and the BC has made a recommendation to executive leadership on a salary pool for FY25, and we hope to be able to share more about that. You may hear from executive leadership on it before, or you may hear about it in a Regents meeting before I'm able to report back based on timing of our meetings. But I'll really appreciate the input that the members of that committee have been provided by staff members to help contribute to those conversations. So that concludes my report. And flip back over the agenda. So is there any old business that anybody has for the Senate?
I was trying to understand, when we say we're self-insured,
Okay,
I know that, when I look at my paycheck stub, Western contributes like $812 a month to my insurance. And then obviously I'm paying $500 for family plan, like $546, whatever it is. And so I'm trying to understand how, if we're self-insured, that money that Western pays, is that where the self-insured part is?
yeah, I think so, so in addition to the either employee premiums or participant premiums, there's also there's where the risk comes from. And if anybody understands this better than me, or if you don't like what I say, feel free to chime in. But it's, there's kind of an estimate of what the overall plan is gonna cost. And that's where you get the employer contribution and the employee premium from. And then there's the balance of what things actually turn into. Yeah, and then there are inside of that, we'll call it $1,000 between, well, yours is for your plan, you're $500, and university's $800 and something dollars. It's not just healthcare, there's also like stop loss insurance that's in there, and the different components of it.
Yeah, because just to throw some math to it, to try and put it into perspective, if the university contributes $812 a month, that's, $9,744 a year. And I misspoke. I pay for just my basic health insurance, for family insurance, $476 a month. So that's, $5,712 a year. And then you added the $2,400 that I get for the
HSA.
trying to be healthy,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
to speak. All that comes out to, you're talking over $12,000. And, 5,000 of that's from me. But if Western's putting in 9,744 and then the 2,400, that's the $12,144 a year. So it seems odd to me, and I may be speaking ignorantly because I don't understand it. It seems like I would be able to find an insurance plan cheaper than that. For that amount of money per year. It just seems odd to me.
Yeah,
And then obviously I put money in my HSA to help offset having to pay so much out of pocket till I meet that deductible, which is higher than it's been in the past. So it just seems, from my comprehension, it seems like that's a lot of money that if Western is putting out over $12,000, it seems like they could give me $12,000. I wonder if I could go find a policy for myself if they give me that money. You know, and maybe I'm just not understanding how insurance works or what self-insured means, but would Western lose that money if we weren't self-insured? You know, where does that money come from? I know it gets set aside for it, budgeted for it. But that seems like a lot of money when you, how many employees does Western have? Full-time employees, 2,500?
Yeah,
That's a ton of money right there.
so one, I don't think I have an answer to that. But stepping away from WKU healthcare and the benefits plan, healthcare in America is broken. It's awfully broken. It's horrible. It's ridiculous. So taking that into consideration, like that's half the reason I don't have an answer.
Yeah,
So,
and I will say in your defense, so to speak, when I looked at getting employment elsewhere, it was over $1,000 a month for something comparable, but you know, you're talking, it was a $20 copay and
Yeah.
$5, $10 copay for meds, which is a lot better than what we have here. Until you exhaust that 2,400 plus whatever else you put in the HSA.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I guess it's a lack of understanding on my part. But I do know that when I looked at outside employment, they told me, you know, yeah, you might be making $30 an hour, but you're gonna be paying $1,000 a month in insurance for family coverage.
Yeah, and that variety of experience is part of the reason that I have the personal point of view that health care and health insurance in America is broken. Like my mom just got new hearing aids. What is it when you're retired? Medicare?
Yeah, there's combinations.
Medicaid is one thing and Medicare is when you're old.
Medicare.
Okay, so I had no idea, this doesn't make sense to me at all. Medicare is zero coverage for hearing aids or hearing tests. That seems ridiculous because focus on the population that you think would have, maybe that's why, right? Because it's a population that has high utilization. But I think it's a bigger, I'm not trying to stop the conversation, but it's a bigger conversation than just here. But I think that's why you see so many different, and when I talk to peers at other institutions and what their experience is, it's not dissimilar, but it's not the same. Go ahead.
So I don't want to simplify this because it's really complex, and I think as valuable as any seat anybody has on any committee on this campus, the benefits committee is an incredibly important committee. Because it both takes into consideration money that individuals invest and money that universities invest. So that's a big deal, but while some people, and I'm saying this with help of my friend, the faculty regent, would be able to get cheaper insurance individually. Most of us would not. So what the university does is pool risk, and they'll do this constant re-risk assessment every year. And then we pay an agency, like an administrative agency to handle claims like Blue Cross. And if you were able to get cheaper insurance, you probably wouldn't have as much risk protection. Believe me, this is a topic that we've discussed behind the scenes for years now, and I agree with Jordan. I do think healthcare in America is broken. I think the university is kind of caught in this odd position because there is no easy answer. You know, a good example is weighing the benefits of the new weight loss medications versus the cost, right? Would it save more if the university covered those in the future versus what it would cost in claims down the road? I mean, these are all things that get factored in every year, and they have significant conversations around them, but it is a constant reassessment of pool risk. That's the way I understand it, and that's what I don't think there's an easy answer. I think it's probably the hardest thing we do on that any employees do on this campus each year related to trying to do what's right. The stop loss is really important because, you know, when you reach a certain amount, I think it's like $320,000 maybe.
250.
250, 320, somewhere in that neighborhood, then the other pool of insurance takes over. So we have this other underwriter for those costs. So, you know, if somebody gets really, really sick, like I did a few years ago, and, you know, coverage for me goes into the hundreds of thousands of dollars like it did 6 years ago. The university, that's relieved because it goes to another carrier. And those types of configurations are just really difficult. We've had this conversation, we have this conversation constantly. It's something that everybody should keep a very close eye on. And there's all kinds of factors, everything from the age of the employees to the number of families, number of participants, because, you know, you don't have to participate. And these are all things that you try to be fair on. Because what we don't want is the university to say, okay, we've got 6 people here that are over 50. They're too risky. Let's figure out a way not to insure them. And they don't do that, and they won't do that. And that's part of the reason there's this balance of risk, is the way I understand it. I could be completely wrong.
I was surprised when they did the evaluation between the self-insured and say someone else taking over. I assumed it would be cheaper for another company, but it was more expensive because there was administrative costs. And then we also lose control. I mean, because I heard of someone that was working for UPS and they wouldn't insure them because their cholesterol was too high. So they, you know, we lose control of who we can insure as well. But I was surprised at the finding that it was cheaper for us to be the self-insured. But it is expensive. It's amazing. But then also someone else was saying that like Bowling Green City, their insurance is only $150 for a family, you know, so I guess they take the bigger risk and pay more out towards their employees versus us. Like you said, Western pays $800. And I think a lot of employees don't realize that Western is contributing that amount of money. And the stop loss, it's around $30 per employee to have that insurance, but I mean, there are several times a year that there's over $1 million claims throughout the year we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. And that would bankrupt our funds for that. So the stop loss is important so that anything over 250,000, Western is not covering that amount. So.
I think the answer to the why can't WKU give you that money and you go shop on the open market, I think we're federally mandated that we have to provide the plan, right? We have over 50 employees and that's how it works.
If we're so.
You can opt out. I mean, they're not gonna.
You can opt out, but yes,
They're not
and
gonna get it out.
yet the plan is like, there's a dollar amount associated if you opt out of the plan, right? Yeah, you're still required to have health insurance, I think, but not from your employer.
Yeah, but if you opt out, you're certainly not gonna get that money.
No, it's not,
Well, because that goes in their pool,
Right.
you know, that's the problem, is we get back to this risk pool, and they're gonna need that money.
yeah,
Basically what it is, if somebody doesn't get sick, their money goes to help the other person that stays sick.
Yes,
So it just balances out where everybody gets a cheaper rate. That's basically simplifying.
I think that's probably a fair characterization. There's some economy to scale there.
And if we do have a good year of low claims, Western benefits from that. If we're not self-insured and we have low claims, somebody outside of Western benefits.
Have we ever benefited though?
I think previously, like pre-COVID, it was
More
more,
COVID really good in sense, not.
yeah.
Yeah, there was surplus years where there was extra, definitely more contributions and payouts.
Yeah.
so there's the benefit of being self-insured, is you can take that money and roll it or purposefully, you know, assign it to a pool that lowers, you know, you put more in reserve, right? If you have a good year.
And when, was that August of last year, that neighborhood of when that report came back to the committee? So that's a point in time. So I don't want me reporting back on this to sound like that conversation's over. It's the role of the benefits committee is very much to continually evaluate what's the best for the participant population, right? So, really good.
Don't ask, I won't.
No, yeah,
No, and the good news is there are staff members on that committee, and they, you know, we have good input on that committee. I'm very happy with the people that participate in it. And I think that they really care and they get to see a side that not a lot of us, it's kind of like making the sausage. We don't really want to know. But it's important and I think there's good representation.
I don't want that
Yeah.
close, okay. Feel free to bring it up whenever there's a question about it, but thank you. I'm sure there are 36 other people or 300 other people that have a really similar question, so. Any other old business? Any new business?
I'm
Go ahead.
curious about something.
Yeah.
Back, and it's almost been 2 years ago to the day. It was mentioned that the state allocated like $34 million and the university would match a certain percentage of it. Was like $5 million and $39 million total. That was for
Is it asset preservation?
for backlog maintenance
Okay.
issues. And I don't want to sound sarcastic when I say this, but I heard the comment made that handle your finances at home like you would your business. And so when I handle my finances at home, I have a receipt. I'm a receipt nut. I keep a receipt for every transaction that takes place. And when I do the books for the church, I'm the same way. I've got to have a receipt and show everything balanced. So do we have a way to keep track of what they've done maintenance wise for $39 million, or is that allocated over a certain period of time? There was an email that went out back 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still, and I say this in frustration because some of the guys, we still have a lack of maintenance guys. And so, and I'm not saying that money is supposed to cover jobs or what have you. Of course, that was one thing everybody said was, does that mean we're all getting a raise type of thing? And, but what is, how can we show what that code is, the maintenance wise? Cause I keep hearing about there's a lack of, parts being able to be acquired within what I would consider, the university is my customer. And as a maintenance personnel, I have a responsibility, I feel like, and I take it personally, to get things fixed and taken care of. But if I feel like I'm not getting the stuff as early as I normally do, it seems like it's taking longer. So, and I know something has changed in the process, but if we had that money, wouldn't that be something that would prevent something like this from happening? Because now we're just backlogging again. If it's taking longer to service things, and I know that's a loaded
Sure.
question.
Well, you're good, because I don't have an answer, so
Well, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It just seems odd to me that I was looking back on some things, and if there was and I'm just asking in general, if there was that kind of money and it was for maintenance backlog issues, it seems like we're getting even backlogged even more.
yeah, so,
And I don't know who that's a question for.
so I'm happy, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That comes up in the capital allocations committee.
Yep.
They usually prioritize, there's a list of projects that they prioritize and that those asset preservation funds go towards those projects. So like redoing Diddle's roof or replacing boilers and those type of things. And there are spreadsheets about what those projects are allocated, what's in process, what's been finished. And a lot of times with some of that Western pays, and then they are kind of reimbursed after the fact. So that there is documentation that exists.
Okay, so.
Jordan,
Yeah,
I'll take a stab at this. So thank you, Morgan, for that explanation, because that's correct. This is a very long bureaucratic process through the state. We have to submit the projects to the state to get, as Morgan said, to get reimbursed for what we spent. And so there's also a threshold you have to spend on a project. So it's not just regular maintenance, like fixing a door or something like that. It's a major project, like Morgan referred to, replacing the Diddle Arena roof or replacing boilers or things like that. And so we have not actually spent a great deal of money over the past biennium. But we have records on all of that. And we have, I think it's 3 to 4 bienniums to spend the 33 million that we were allocated back in 2022. And then we've just received another allocation in this budget of somewhere around 30 something million that we'll have, there's no matching requirement on that, and we will have another 3 bienniums to spend that. So this is going to span for major maintenance projects over a period of probably 8 to 12 years.
Thank you for that explanation. Morgan, thank you as well. Yeah,
I was just concerned because there's some guys I'm hearing, they can't do their job or something's not running because it's taken a while to get what we need to do it. And I know there was curtailments as it was labeled, but it seems like we're more crippled than we have been in the past about maintaining things. And, you know, I treat my job, I take a personal interest in it. And so, you know, and some of my job duties have certainly increased, and so have some of the other guys. And now it's even more difficult to do what we need to do because it seems like we're limited on what we have access to. And I know, you know, I know these curtailments or what have you, but, you know, things still need to be serviced, but now it seems like it's taking longer to service things, if that makes any sense.
it does.
So it's just a kind of a concern, and I know the maintenance guys are feeling that, and so we've had people retire and leave now, and seems like nothing is happening with any of those positions. And, you know, people obtain more money for their responsibilities changing, and so responsibilities have changed for others. It's like trying to do more with less, and trying to do more work with less people, trying to do more with, you know, and I'm notorious for keeping, man, I'll put stuff on my shelves, and when something gets tore down, whenever the baseball clubhouse gets tore down, you better believe I'm gonna take every bit of piece of material that I can, and I'll reuse it somewhere else. And, but I'm a pack rat in that way. And, so it pays off in there, but my shop is limited on space because I've pack wrapped so much stuff. But anyways, my point being is it feels like guys are being asked to do more with less, and we're asked to do more with less people. And so, you know, there's questions about, you know, even financial compensation. And I know nobody likes to hear that. But, you know, if people are doing more and required more, I was required to do more this year overtime than I've ever had to do. And some of these guys are, you know, you've got a master plumber that retires, and it seems like there's no interest in getting them replaced and getting another plumber. There's another plumber that's getting ready to retire, and it seems like these are maintenance positions that need to be filled. And so it's a concern. If anything, I'm venting a concern that several have mentioned. And, you know, if I don't say something, then I'm ignoring it. If I say something and I ruffle some feathers, you know, I'd rather ruffle some feathers and say something, because I don't want it doesn't need to be ignored. And so from a maintenance position, being on this committee or being in the Senate, you know, I feel like I've got a responsibility to say something. And, you know, and I always hear, well, it's being felt campus wide. And I would be so interested to know what other staff members on campus and what faculty on campus, what their perception is on the maintenance department. When what's the vision for the university in 5 years from now for the maintenance department? What's the concept of what they, want to happen in 5 years? Because we keep getting smaller, then what's their idea of what's gonna happen with us in 5 years? Do I wanna work, 55, 60 hours every single week? No, I don't. And it comes in spurts. I realize that with support of athletic events, special events, different events that take place during the year, whether it be master plan for the freshmen or commencement or what have you. And I take that stuff personally. I want to do the best I can with wherever I'm needed, but I don't want to have to work all that time, all the time. So, some of these guys we're getting smaller and having to do more. So what's the vision for the university, for the maintenance department? It's that simple. I'm not talking about plant operations. That's a side I'm not even familiar with. I'm talking about the maintenance guys. What's the vision for maintenance in 5 years from now, 6 years from now, what have you? Because since I've been here, we keep getting smaller and smaller. And so, and I'm by myself in the shop during the daytime now. And so, do I mind working ball games? No, absolutely not. Do I mind doing the things I do? I love what I do. I love setting up sound. I love doing fire alarm work. I love having call-ins. I love that stuff. But I'm spending more of my time here than I am at home. And, so what's the vision of the university for the maintenance department? Of course, that's a loaded question, but something's got to give, something has to change. And, because I can't do everything that I do all the time. I have a life too, but I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why I'm still here. I love the time off. I love the flexibility, but my responsibilities have changed. And my demand on my time has changed. I don't receive a cell phone, stipend. I don't receive any of that stuff, so something has to change. You can't keep whipping a good horse, eventually you break them down. So, but I want to take ownership of what I do. And because there are guys that say, well, I'm not doing anything else because it's not my wheelhouse. I want to learn as much as I can, do as much as I can to help anybody. And the people out there are the customer. And so I want to, do whatever I have to do, make sure the customer's happy, but I feel like I'm limited on what I'm able to do. So anyways, I kind of went on a rant there. I wanted to get that off my chest, but if I don't say something, there's other people I know on this university that are frustrated, and a lot of people are frustrated.
Yeah.
But something has to be done differently, and I know, they cut budgets, and I know they don't like to use that word. They curtailed the budget. They took money out of certain places, but there comes a point where you can't operate effectively. And I feel like we're reaching that point where maintenance can't operate effectively. So anyways, some of that was just feeling, some of that was my opinion, but a personal observation. An argument is always at the mercy of an experience, and I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it from the other guys. That somebody has to say something. So, anyways.
No,
That's it.
so sincerely, I appreciate you sharing it, because the only thing worse than not saying it would be being silent about it. I know you take all of your responsibilities personally, and that's something that makes WKU better. So I appreciate you sharing your point of view, your experience, and your feelings on it. So, and I'm sure you're representing quite a few people when you share that point of view. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other new business? Okay, we reserve time for public comment, so if there's a member of the public that would like to address the Senate, you can open the floor for that. Yes.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
You talk about all these jobs, we've short so many people. It seems like anytime a lot of other different departments, I won't point no certain ones out. Somebody quits or retires, it seemed like the next day they got somebody hired. Why is it so hard to get employees hired for maintenance?
I don't know the answer to that question either.
We've been short for a long time.
Did someone,
I mean, I think it's different departments. I mean, we lost 2 positions in our area and they never replaced them. I mean, I wonder, is there certain departments that you've seen that can hire just immediately or just fill those positions?
It seemed like any of them, if it don't have to do with maintenance, gets hired back quick.
Okay, let me say this as a hiring official. If they're not hiring them, they don't want to.
Exactly.
If I have a position come open, and I've had positions come open recently, I have 2 options. And I want to stress what those options are. Now, actually, I have 3. I'll tell you all 3 of them. First one is I go in interview exchange. Again, I'm speaking as a university employee now. This is what the university staff hiring process is. I fill out a requisition, it goes through the approval process. All the people that have administrative control over the money that we're allocated get to see it. We discuss everything in that process, from how they're paid to what index that comes out of, and what the time commitment is for the position. If it's, 37.5 hours, if it's 40 hours, if it's part-time, full-time, permanent, temporary, whatever. All that goes through administrative channels. Usually takes me 2 to 3 days to get that approved. Once that's approved, we can start the search. We start the search, I give it a minimum of 2 weeks, usually goes 4 weeks, we look for the pool, and we go through that process. I have another option. The option 2 is I don't fill it. And if I don't fill it, that money in my budget index line that was previously allocated for a salary continues to accumulate until the end of the fiscal year, where it's recaptured if it's a university index by the university if I don't spend it. Or I can allocate something else. Let's imagine that somebody leaves and there's a big vacation payout that we have to give them. I may purposefully want to keep that position vacant for 30 days or 60 days to help recoup some of that loss. Even though they earned it, that's a strategic move. The third option is I can appoint someone with presidential approval. So if I have an urgent need or an emergency, this rarely happens. I want to stress that this is something that is not preferred. I don't like doing this. But if I have an emergency, I can make a case to the president. He can sign a document and we can do an immediate appointment of an individual. So that could be next day, if we can get everything signed and dated. So the long story short on this is, if a position is vacated and it is not filled in your department, it's the choice of your department head to not fill it, period. It's not because you don't have money. It's not because they didn't value the previous individual. It's because they made a budgetary decision to not provide a person in that role. That is not on, it's not necessarily on Susan. It's not on President Caboni. It's not on anybody in the upper administrative circles. It lies squarely with the person that is considered your hiring official in your division, because they manage your budget.
Those jobs that are still open, are they allocated money for those positions that's still open each year?
Without knowing your specific budget, I can't tell you that. But unless your budget took a reduction because you got rid of a bunch of full-time positions, I would say that, remember, indexes are assigned in amounts. They're not assigned for 15 people or 20 people. We determine how we spend our indexes. We determine the number of positions. Now, HR has records of positions. And they know we have assignments for position numbers. If I sit with a position that I don't fill for 6 years, do I think it's fair that the university continue to fund that portion of that index for that position? Absolutely not. I've demonstrated that I don't need it. I'm not using it, so they should take it back, right? But I try to use all that money very efficiently and keep all those positions filled because I need them. We downsized in the last 6 years, 2 or 3 positions, because we wanted to be more efficient. If there's a bunch of positions that are vacant on purpose, that money is accumulating if it has not been reduced out of the index, period. It's that simple. I cannot speak to why that happens in your area, because I'm not over it. I don't even know what makes up your indexes. And that's why I've always been an advocate for everybody to explore their indexes, look at how their money's allocated, look at what it's going toward. See if you can find out, it's not about who makes what, it's about how is your department spending its money? And if there's an extra amount of money that's going in one direction instead of another, that's worth an exploration. If there are people, a dear friend of some of you all retired a couple of weeks ago from the third floor of our building. If that position doesn't get filled, his salary will continue to accumulate in that budget line until the end of the fiscal year. So, I mean, that's how that works. I'm willing to be refuted by HR or anybody else, but that's how we've done it. So, I mean, hold your,
Do we have a right to view these indexes?
everybody can look at the indexes, they're everywhere. I mean, they're public, yeah, that's part of the budget. You can, if you know your index numbers, you can look, hell, you can look at mine. Hell, I'll bring my books in and show everybody in this room, I don't mind doing it.
I don't believe you're the one that's not trusted.
But see, this is the point. It sounds to everything that you all are talking about to me sounds like a leadership issue. So I would address that first. If you have grievances with your leadership, work through the channels, get that addressed, because I'm consistently hearing it's not an individual problem on A, B, or C, it's an overall leadership issue. Because I'll bet you everybody else in this room can tell you what their goals are for their department are for the next 5 years. And if they can't, they can lean on some other strategic plan that gives them an outline. So to me, that's your first challenge, is what are your strategic goals that have been assigned by your department? What are the goals? What are the financial goals? What are the different ramifications of not doing the individual jobs or having to work 15 hours of overtime or 20 hours of overtime every 6 weeks? To me, that's a problem. If I'm reporting 16 or 20 hours of overtime for an individual, I'm gonna worry that's gonna come back on me, because that means I'm not using people efficient. That's the other issue. So, you know, I think there's a consistent leadership question that you all need to address. That's just an opinion. I don't want to hold an individual higher or lower than their standing. But I can tell you that everything that I hear from my experience are leadership concerns.
Thank you.
Now, I feel for you, I do.
Thank you. Any other public comment or questions? Okay, our next meeting is slated for May 1st. We'll be back on YouTube, back in this room.
Actually, I do have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we going to do a special election?
I was gonna get that set up at our next executive committee meeting, since I didn't do it last time. But we do have some open seats still. So I think we did work on dates in executive committee and then stand it up through. Well, actually, I guess we need to do it here first to approve having a special election and then get the details. So, you wanna make a motion?
Make a motion for a special election to fill the empty seats.
Okay, motion is made and seconded, stand up a special election. Any debate? If not, ask for a vote. I'll ask that we accept it, or approve the motion via unanimous consent, because that's the really quick way. Okay, hearing no objection, motion stands approved. We'll get details out to everybody via email, and then make a campus-wide announcement. Be real similar to the fashion that we did our last election. So we'll request nominations and things like that. I know there are a couple people who expressed some interest during and after our last election, so now is the time to get in. You're guaranteed a 1-year seat, which is really nice. You get to come and figure out how it is. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. If there's nothing else.